Hi, today's lesson is about towns, traders, and craftsmen. We can see here a town, and we can also see traders trading their goods. One man is trading, giving money so that he can buy an apple. And here's a craftsman. What is he doing? He's making pots. But how do all of these three things fit together? How does a trader and a craftsman help develop a town? What is the role of the trader and craftsman in the growth of a town? And that's what this lesson is all about. So now let's look at what is a craft and what does a craftsman do. Here we can see different kinds of crafts. But what is a craft? According to the dictionary, a craft is any activity involving skill in making things by hand. So what are some of the crafts on this page? We can see gold weaving gold into the textile or cloth. Weapons. Here we can see some axes. We can also see buildings. These are different kinds of crafts. What are some other kinds of crafts? We can see wooden beams in this house. See, you can see those brown things. Those are the wooden beams that hold the roof up and give the roof a structure. And here are some clothes. These are the kind of clothes that were worn during the medieval times. This is not an exhaustive list of crafts. There are so many other crafts, but just for our discussion, we have chosen a few. Here we can see the craftsmen. These are the men that have the skill of making things by hand. They work with different kind of materials. So, here's a goldsmith that uses gold, and he uses his hands to shape the gold into different kinds of useful things. Here's a mason. What does a mason do? They work with stone to make buildings. That skill is called masonry. Okay? Here's a blacksmith. What does a blacksmith do? They're the ones that work with metal. Right? And here you can see that this blacksmith is working with a horseshoe. Right? Blacksmiths also are useful to make weapons, armory, swords. Here are some more craftsmen. What's a craftsman on the left called? He's called a weaver. Right? What does a weaver do? They are weaving threads from a yarn and then they're making a cloth. And look at the design that he's making on the cloth. He's doing it all by hand. What about the craftsman on the right? He's called a carpenter. And a carpenter, they work with wood. And what can they make? They can make wooden furniture for the houses. Or they can make those wooden beams for the rooftops. Or wooden panels for the floors. These were all the different kinds of crafts or the products that were made during the medieval times by the craftsmen. And as you can see, that their work, it requires skill, hard work, and smart work. In the next lesson, we are going to see the role of craftsmen. Did these craftsmen simply produce their goods? Who bought the goods from the craftsmen? They're called traders. So we can see the role of the craftsmen and the traders in medieval India. What did they do and how did they help develop their villages into towns in medieval India? Hi, welcome to another lesson on towns, traders, and craftsmen. In the previous lesson, we have learned the names of various crafts and craftsmen. On this slide, we can see the examples of different kinds of crafts people and the craftsman community in medieval India. Our first example is the Bidri community. They are from Bidar in AP, and their main skill is that they were able to inlay gold and silver on copper. So we can see the picture of a Bidri flask, and we can also see another picture of a Bidri craftsperson who is working with a hammer and a pointed object. You can see a small thread of silver. He is inlaying that into the copper. This is a video of a Bidri craftsman working on a copper plate. Look at the simple tools, a hammer and a sharp object. Together they help him to etch a groove into the copper, which later he will inlay the grooves with strips of silver or gold. Here are some more examples of communities which are formed by craftspeople in medieval India. The first community is Vishwakarma community. In this community, we can see that there were many different kinds of craftspeople that joined. The goldsmith, the bronzesmith, the blacksmiths, masons and carpenters. The Saliyar community is another community of craftspeople that was specialized in weaving. And during this period, cotton cleaning, spinning, and dyeing became specialized and were considered as independent crafts. Here we can see a craftsman, a trader, a village, and a town. In this lesson, we are going to learn how traders and craftsmen work together for the development and the growth of a village into a town. We can see that there is a craftsman. He is a blacksmith. Look, under his foot is a anvil, and in his right hand is a hammer. That's what a blacksmith does. He works with metals and shapes them into swords, pickaxes, just as we see in that picture. He also happens to live in a village, in a small village. Along comes a trader, and look at what's in his hand. Money, cash. So he looks at the sword and the pickaxe, and he wants to trade them for the money in his hand. This is called trading in cash or trading in money. What is the result of trading? The small village has grown into a large village. The villagers also have a lot of money. Look at the gold. Because of the trade. Wow! The potter and the carpenter want to join the village community. Welcome, Mr. Potter. Welcome, Mr. Carpenter. Soon, this large village will turn into a town. In this lesson, we learned how craftsmen and traders played a major role for the development of towns in medieval India. Welcome to another exciting lesson on towns, traders, and craftsmen. In the last class, we saw how craftsmen and traders played a major role in medieval India. Today, we will learn about the kinds of traders and trading communities. Where did they trade? What did they trade? What are guilds and what are caravans? What are the names of the traders? What are the different kinds of traders in medieval India? The first one is a petty hawker or a street vendor. Look at the picture of an old man selling snacks in the evening. What is another name for a trader in medieval India? Merchants. These big merchants, they traveled across land and sea to trade. Traders don't trade by themselves. They're always part of a trading community. And here are some examples of trading communities. In Tamil Nadu, there were the Chettiars. In Punjab, the Khatris. In Rajasthan, Marwari Oswal. In Gujarat, Muslim Bohras and Hindu Baniyas. There are 4 trading communities here, but there is another one. It's called the Banjaras, and they're a unique trading community. The Banjaras are unique. They are nomad traders. What does that mean? They are traders who travel across long distances. They don't stay at one place. That's why they are not even shown on the map, because they have traveled the whole length and breadth of India. Naturally, they'll have to cross extreme terrains, difficult landscapes. Like what? Wetlands, hills, and forests. Look at the first picture. The land is pretty much covered in water. Imagine mosquitoes, life-threatening diseases. These are what is closely associated with wetlands. Let's go to another possible landscape called the hills. They seem a lot more friendly to the traveling trader, to the Banjaras. But look at the rocky slopes and no green vegetation. So, even hills are not an easy area to travel. For those who have traveled long distances, they are weary and tired. Alright then, how about the forest? That looks like a calm place to travel. Well, there may not be water or rocks, but surely there are wild and dangerous animals, poisonous plants. That's why these Banjaras are called nomad traders. They are known for their endurance and their skill to cover these difficult terrains. What did the Banjaras trade? They would trade in food stuff. For example, rice, flour, butter, milk, vegetables, and sugar. How did the nomadic tribe of the Banjaras cover difficult terrain, roaming across different landscape, carrying all these foodstuff? They used cattle as beasts of burden to transport their goods. Different cattle helped them to move across different landscapes. Below, we can see the Banjaras are real people, a real community who are still alive today. They are experts in breeding cattle. Here, we can see a Banjara man showing off a fine species of cow called the Lal Kandari. On the right is a picture of another man with his donkeys. Here is a short write-up about the uniqueness of the Banjaras. This is not found in your textbook. The Banjaras are one of India's most famous nomadic tribes. They are also known as Lombardis. They were once, during the time of the Delhi Sultanate and the Mughal era, responsible for the transportation of goods, especially grain and salt, throughout India. They represented a guild of caravaneers that could organize 10,000 and more bullocks to convey goods over distances over 2,000 miles, and were especially in demand to accompany and provide grains for the armies that invaded the Deccan. Where did the traders trade? As you can see, there are many places on the map that have colored circles. Can you count them all? There are 6 different colors. Yes, and India is at the center. Many of the traders, they traded within India. But there are other traders who also traded outside of India with the foreign countries. So, starting from the left, India has traded with Africa, with Arabia, Persia, Southeast Asia, and China. What did Indian traders trade in? Or what goods did Indian traders buy from the foreign lands? From Africa, they bought gold and ivory. From Southeast Asia, they brought silver, and from China, they bought spices, tin, and blue pottery. Look at the picture of the gold bars on the left. Below you can see the elephants with their white tusks. Their white tusks are made of ivory. You can also see pictures of pottery from China and the silver coins from Southeast Asia. What do foreign traders take from India? Or what did Indian traders sell to foreigners? Well, starting from the left and going clockwise, you can see cinnamon sticks, dried ginger, nutmeg, pepper, and cotton cloth. Here are some more facts about traders. They were interested in banking and money lending. Who did the traders lend money to? They would lend money to other traders or other craftsmen. They also made donations to temples. Why did they do that? It's to gain acceptance and the goodwill of the society. They even got religious merit. It showed that they respected the sentiments of the people. They also had patronage of the temple authorities and the royal family. What does that mean? This meant that merchants like Nagar Shreshtis, they were so big and influential that they made so much donations to the temples that they enjoyed many privileges, and they had the right to control the appointments to the temple. What are guilds? Guilds are an association of craftsmen or traders that have considerable influence. Why do traders form guilds? Or what is the advantage of a guild to a trader? As a single merchant, you are likely to face dangers or challenges, not only from the environment, but also from foreign land. For example, you could face catastrophes, calamities, and even robbery while you're traveling to distant places. These guilds, they would provide a form of protection, a certain insurance, so that you could escape from these dangers. Guilds also function as a bank, offering loans to meet their short-term requirements. Guilds also provided group identity. That is, popular guilds also gave trustworthiness to these traders associated with these guilds. Remember, Trust is an important factor for trade across distant lands. The prominent guilds of South India, they were called Mani Gramam and Navadesi. They traded both within India and foreign trade. Here is a picture of a caravan. What is a caravan? It's a group of people, especially traders, traveling together across a region. Here, they are riding camels and using them to carry their goods. In this lesson, you learned about what are trading communities, where did they trade, what are guilds, and what are caravans. In the next lesson, you will learn about the 4 types of towns. Welcome to the last class on towns, traders, and craftsmen. In the previous class, we learned about the names of traders, trading communities, where did they trade, what did they trade, what are guilds, and what are caravans. Today, in this lesson, we will learn about the 4 types of towns. The towns are classified based on their functions, and there are 4 different types. The first one is called the court town, the second, the temple town, the third, port town, the fourth is a trading town. What is a court town? A court town or a capital town is the town which refers to the place where the king held his court. But what is a temple town? A temple town is a town that developed on account of the settlement of people connected with the temples. What is a port town? A large number of port towns developed both on the eastern and the western coast of India to provide services to foreign traders. What is a trading town? A trading town developed as a result of the products found in that particular region, nearby ports or major trade routes. A port town and a trading town are also called as commercial towns, a town where commerce is carried out. From the previous slide, we may understand that a town could perform only a single function. Either it was a court, or a temple town, or a port town, or a trading town. But sometimes a town can perform multiple functions. And here we have 2 examples. Hampi, now in Karnataka, was the capital of the Vijayanagar Empire, was both a trading town and a temple town. Tanjavur, now in Tamil Nadu, was a court town, a temple town, and a commercial town. In the next few slides, we will see how Tanjavur was able to be a court town, a temple town, and a commercial town all at the same time. On this slide, we will learn about Tanjavur as a court or a capital town. It was the capital of the Chola dynasty. Kings held court in mandapas or pavilions. Can you see the picture of the pavilion? In the pavilion, the king issued orders to his subordinates. In a court town like Tanjavur, you were also likely to find barracks for the army. Tanjavur was also a temple town. The famous Rajarajeshwara temple was built in Tanjavur by the king Rajaraja Chola. The temple was dedicated to Lord Shiva. According to the inscription carved on the temple wall, the architect of the Rajarajeshwara temple was Kunyaramalan Rajaraja Perundachan. In the slide, you can see a picture of the temple. Tanjavur was also a commercial town. The town had many markets in which grains, spices, clothes, jewelry, etc. were bought and sold. The town of Tanjavur had a unique water supply system. Water was supplied to the city of Tanjavur from wells and tanks. In the picture on the left, you can see a temple that's surrounded by water. That is what they meant by tanks. The tank is the area around the temple that was designed. It was dug out of the ground so that during the rainy season it will collect water which is supplied to the town for the remainder of the year. Craftspeople were also a part of the commerce in Tanjavur. The Salia weavers produced cloth for the flags to be used in the temple festivals. They produced fine cottons for the king and nobility and coarse cotton for the general public. The sthapatis or sculptors made fine bronze idols, tall ornamental bells, and metal lamps. In the picture we can see a Salia weaver working to produce cloth and a sculptor working on a bronze idol using a hammer and a chisel. Now we'll look at the locations of some of the most popular court or capital towns of medieval India. Out of the 9 well-known court towns, 4 of them are found in southern India. Can you see the names and the location of the 4 court towns in South India? Tanjavur and Madurai are found today in Tamil Nadu. Badami and Dwara Samudra are found in today's Karnataka. The remaining popular court towns or capital towns are found in North India. Can you see the names and the location of these towns? The names of these towns are New Delhi, Ajmer, Kanauj, Fatehpur Sikri, and Lahore. Let us look at another type of town. It's called the temple town. What is a temple town? It's a town that developed on account of the settlement of people connected with the temples. How is a temple town important for economy and the society? We will look at 3 classes of people and how they helped a temple town to develop. The first class of people are the kings or the rulers. How did the king or the ruler help in developing a temple town? The rulers built temples to show their power, wealth, and devotion to deity. They granted temples adequate land and money to carry out elaborate rituals, feed the priests and pilgrims, and to celebrate festivals. In the picture, can you see the direction of the arrows? From the king flows the money and the gold into the temple. And what does the temple show to the society and to the people that visit that town? It shows the king's power, it shows the king's wealth, and his devotion to deity. The second class of people that we look at is the pilgrims. They are the people that come into the town, maybe they leave the town also. Here we can see nobles, maybe even merchants, the traders. The pilgrims, especially the nobles and wealthy merchants, made huge donations. Temple authorities started to use their wealth to finance the trade and banking. Can you see the direction of those arrows in the picture? The pilgrims are so wealthy and they donate most of their money into the temple. But what do they get in return? In return, the nobles and the merchants get from the temple the trust and acceptance in the society. When they give the money into the temple, it shows that to the people that the nobles and the merchants, they respect the sentiments, the religious sentiments of the people. We can think of the first 2 classes as the ruling class, the royal class, the aristocracy, the nobility, the wealthy people. They were the people that gave money into the temple. But what did the temple authorities do with all that money? Well, they'd use it to help the working class in the temple society. The temple authorities started to use their wealth to finance trade and banking. So this created a great demand for many things. When people come into a town, they have demands, they have needs that have to be met. This gave employment to a large number of priests, garland makers, sculptors, shopkeepers, traders, workers, musicians, dancers, weavers, and many other craftspeople. These people settled into the towns. And that's why the towns grew around temples. On this slide, you can see that the direction of the arrows is reversed. The working class are provided employment and can participate in rituals and festivals. In return, what do they receive? They receive the money, they receive their due for all the hard work that they put into the development. Here we can see some of the temple towns plotted on the map of India. Can you read the names of these temple towns? There are 5 of them. Can you see the location of these temple towns? Some of the famous temple towns include Mathura in UP, Vidisha in Madhya Pradesh, Somnath in Gujarat, Tirupati in Andhra Pradesh, and Madurai in Tamil Nadu. Let's look into the location of some of the pilgrimage centers in medieval India. On the map, we can see 7 of them. However, Ajmer and Varanasi, they share the same location, so you may not find them as distinct. The names of the pilgrimage centers are Ajmer in Rajasthan, Varanasi, Prayag, Sarnath in Uttar Pradesh, Bodh Gaya in Bihar, Tiruvannamalai in Tamil Nadu. Now we are going to look into a third type of town called the port towns. Can you see the location of India on the map? What is it surrounded by on 3 sides? India is surrounded by seas on 3 sides. What are the 3 seas? The Bay of Bengal on the right, the Indian Ocean below, and the Arabian Sea on the left. Because of its strategic location and its geography, India from the ancient period was able to carry out trade with so many different places. Can you count the different regions on the map that have been circled? Well, starting from the left, we can see Byzantium, which kind of stands for Europe. Then there's Arab and Persia. And to the right, there's the Southeast Asia and China. From the map, we can see that there are many red lines and blue lines. What do these stand for? These are the major trade routes of ancient India. And the trade routes can carry on by land and by sea. So the red lines are the land trade routes, and the blue lines are the sea trade routes. On the map, can you see that India is surrounded by seas on 3 sides? This gave India an overwhelming advantage for trade by sea. And to cater to the services of the foreign traders, many port towns had developed, both on the eastern coast and on the western coast. On the map are plotted 10 port towns. Can you see the names and the location of these towns? The names of the towns are Bharuch, Nala Sopara, Dabhol, Bhatkal, Kozhikode, Kochi, Machilipatnam, Saptagram, Sonargaon, and Chattogram. Now we are going to learn about the 4th type of town. It's called a trading town. What is a trading town? A trading town developed as a result of the products found in that particular region in the nearby ports or on major trade routes. What are some of the trading towns and what were they famous for? On the map are four trading towns. Kasam Bazar in Bengal and Ahmedabad in Gujarat were famous for cotton and silk textiles. Kabul and Kandahar, presently in Afghanistan, were the centers of a horse and silk trade. Can you see the pictures on the slide? The horse and the silkworm, the cotton balls. But what are the other pictures on that slide? From the top right going down, the other items of the trade were saffron, camphor, and betel nut. How did a trading town facilitate trade? Well, for a start, there would be a gathering point for buyers and sellers to exchange their goods. That was called the mandi. And as part of the town planning, the streets were lined with shops. They were called the hata. Each street was dedicated for craftspeople. For example, maybe there'll be a street for oil pressers, another street for sugar, another for toy makers. We have reached the end of the lesson, and in this lesson we have learned about four types of town. What are they? They are the court or capital town, the temple town, the port town, and the trading town.